occasional meeting of the Community Council Liaison Subcommittee, which is being held in the chamber at Penalty House by Microsoft Teams on Monday, the 28th of July at 6 o'clock. The meeting is not being live streamed, but will be recorded and will be made available to view via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images, audios of those speaking will be publicly available to all via the Council's website. Voting this evening will be taken by a show of hands. For those attending in the chamber, please raise your hands when a vote is called. And for those attending remotely, please use the hands up function in Teams. So we're going on to the agenda now. Agenda number item 1 is to receive apologies for absence.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Chair. Apologies for absence are noted by committee services and will be updated on the minutes.
Thank you. Item number 2. Any declarations of interest? If I can read the declaration out. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and or prejudicial interest in respect of any item of business on this agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Are there any declarations? I can't see any declarations. Can you, Emma?
No, Chair, no declarations of interest.
Thank you very much. Item number 3, minutes of the Community Council Liaison Subcommittee held on the 27th of January. As per usual, we go through it page by page for accuracy. So, page 1. Page 2. Page 3. And page 4. So can I have a proposer and a seconder for the minutes, please?
Well, I put my speaker on now. I don't know whether people can hear me.
Hi, Councillor Whittle. Yes, I can confirm we can hear you.
Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. All those agreed? Please show hands. All those against? Any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you. Oh, it is approving. Oh, thank you very much. That's good. Thank you, Councillor Pritchard.
The minutes are approved, Chair.
Thank you, Emma. Then we'll go for item number 4, any matters arising from those minutes. Members join us remotely. Please indicate using the hands up button if you have any matters arising. Members in the chamber, please raise your hand if you have any comments. We will take hands up in strict order of indicating. Is that a legacy hand? Oh. So does anybody have any matters arising from the minutes? So we'll go through it again. So page 1. Page 2. Page 3. And page 4.
Chair,
Yes. Councillor Heron?
I just wanted to raise that this is Community Councillor T Heron, Vice Chair.
You're not your county council. You're definitely county council. Other than that, has anybody else got anything for matters arising? If not, we'll go to item 5. It's the item number 5 on the Community Council Boundary Commission changes. I believe Mr. Beecham is in attendance. If you want to do it, please.
Thank you, Chair. Not a great deal has changed, but I can just take you through the history of it. The Democracy and Boundary Commission Cymru undertook a review of communities in the county borough during 2023 and 24, and published its final recommendations for the future of community arrangements last May. What's happened this May, so a year later, is Welsh Government have contacted us as the principal authority to say they will be making an order to affect all those recommendations as per outlined by the Boundary Commission, so as per the document they published. Following that meeting with Welsh Government, I wrote to all clerks in early June to advise them that was the case. But just to advise everybody that as of yet, the statutory order hasn't been made. So we're still waiting for that, for the detail of what's happening and when. Verbally, the Welsh Government official has told us the changes will come into operation following the next set of local government elections in May 2027. So where I am at the moment with everything is I'm working on a set of key consideration documents which will be based on that order to circulate to all clerks when we get the detail in the legal order. So that's essentially where we are, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Beecham. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Pritchard?
Yes, when you say following the next elections in 27, do you mean for the next elections in 27? So in the next elections, are we to assume that the new boundaries will be in place and that's what we'll be voting on? That's the first question. Second question is, can you confirm that Gelligare Community Council will be increased, or the number of members in it will be increased to 14 from the existing 13, and the extra place will be in Ystrad.
Just to clarify, yes, Councillor Pritchard, the changes will come effect on the next election, so the next election will be for the new arrangements. And yes, Gelligare Community Council was increased by 1 member.
And that member would be in Ystrad.
Off the top of my head, I believe so, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Etheridge.
Yeah, could I ask Mr. Beecham? I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong. They are looking at the possibility of reducing from 69 members to between 64 and 66. That's the first question, and the second question is on the community councils, the creation. I understand, and please correct me again if I'm wrong. Are they looking to create a community council for the Pont Ffraith ward?
Councillor Etheridge, the first thing to say is the review of the principal area. So the county borough council is a separate review from the community review. That's now underway. And the Boundary Commission, I understand, will be publishing their draft recommendations for that, which is a different review from what we're talking about in the autumn. And I can't say what they're going to say, but yes, within their consultation document, they do talk about reducing the number of county borough councillors. In terms of Pont Ffraith, I have no idea, not that I've heard.
And just the last one, Chair. I did read it, but perhaps I'm incorrect. Something about merging the sort of risk awards and the possibility, and I know you can't comment on this, because obviously we've currently got 5 members in Risca. That may go down to 4, or is that just perception and assumption?
No.
Again, Councillor Etheridge, nothing I've heard of. There's obviously it's all down to what the Boundary Commission decide to put proposals back in the autumn.
Chair.
Text them, say, sorry, volume gone again.
In a minute, Councillor Heron.
Can I just clarify that? Is there this talk, or I did read in this possible
Say volume, it's not volume, it's sound, isn't it?
engagement between Ken Forest and Pengham and Goodwelty Fields?
Yeah, as part of the recommendations the community have put together, the communities of Pengham and Kevin Forest will be merged into one community, and the new Bedwellty Fields estate will be moved from Bargoed, Aberbargoed, if you like, into that community.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you.
Sorry, don't, that's loud. Sorry, I'm loud. Anyway. Sorry, Mr. Beecham, I'm a bit confused by what you said about Risker, the Risker East and West. Are they merging together, or is it not quite clear yet on what's going on?
Yeah, sorry for the confusion. In terms of the community councils, both community councils in Risker will be dissolved, and a new community council covering that area called Risker Community Council will be formed if that's reflected in the order, which we're told it will be. The question later on that came up was about county borough wards, which was a separate separate issue.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right, Councillor, Mr. Beecham, I'm going to ask my question now. As a community councillor involved, there are plans to merge my community council, which is Massey-Cummer, Plumrada and Pont-on-Price. I'm very concerned about that because there's no community council actually at the moment in Pont-on-Price, and there's geographical differences between Massey-Cummer and Plumrada. So I need to raise that point with you because we were going back a long time ago, part of Bedford Street Thomas and Macon Community Council, and they decided we were big and large enough at that time to go it alone, which we have been for the last 30 odd years. And now they've now decided to merge us back as a big community council again, which is not fair to the smaller community councils which have been doing their own work. So please, can you answer that query for me, please?
Yeah, I'm pleased to say, Chair, that's not correct. I'm not sure where that information has come from, but in the report, Massey-Cummer stays as his own community council. Part of Massey-Cummer, so there are boundary changes. So if you like, the Horton Meadows development, which at the moment falls into Massey-Cummer, gets moved into Pont-on-Price, and there's little bits of Massey-Cummer, like the Duffin Industrial Estate, for example, which moves to Lambrada. So there are boundary changes, but Massey-Cummer Council stays as it is, with slightly different boundaries.
Yeah, well, I know I was expecting Duffin to be moved because it is closer to Llanbradach than it is to us. And I know there's tops at the top end of Massey-Cummer, which is closer to Pont-on-Price than it is to us. So I was expecting those, but thanks for clarifying things.
On the point of Risker and Risker East, you said we'll decease on the 27. Does that mean that we start rebuilding the council that May, or is there provisions for the councils to get together to start to make a provision for the new council?
I'm hoping that when we get the legal order that tells us the arrangements that will be in place, we'll be able to have a bit more information for you, but it would certainly be sensible for early meetings between the two existing councils. I'll be issuing a key considerations document because it's things that you'll need to look at, like assets, precept, all those sorts of things, which I will issue a briefing note when I've got the detail from the legal order as soon as we get it off Welsh Government. But yeah, it would be sensible, your approach.
So we won't know until October?
No, I'm hoping that the legal order is made at any time soon.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further questions or comments that people want to make? If not, thank you, Mr. Beecham, for giving us an update.
Thank you, Chair.
Next item is item number 6, community asset transfer. I'm sorry, I'm not sure I can't read your names from over there. This is all.
Good evening, thank you, Chair. We have prepared a presentation to share at the meeting. I don't know whether that's available for everybody to see.
Yes, if you can. Okay.
Lovely, thank you. Moving on to slide 2 then, please. We've been asked to attend this evening to provide an update on asset transfer. Over the last 12 months or so, we have been reviewing and refreshing our asset transfer approach, policy and suite of documents relating to asset transfer, anticipating that the number of asset transfer inquiries will increase as the council goes through the process of identifying surplus assets, the potential for asset transfers as well. So the refresh has basically looked at our current policy against Welsh Government guidance, against other local authorities and how they action asset transfers. We've refreshed the policy and started to develop a suite of documents really. So the policy, applicant guidance, councillor guidance, the website information is under review as well. So that's a work in progress. And the position really is to try and make the approach as open and transparent as possible to make it easier for groups to come through. As part of that, we identified that it would be useful to have dedicated officers that could help and support groups coming through. So we've appointed 2 CAT officers, Leslie Edwards and Sean Rees, who's not with us this evening. And there are dedicated CAT officers. So they're the point of contact really for any groups that have inquiries coming through, for councillors with inquiries, any marketing information that that we sort of add onto a site. Their contact details are part of that, and their contact details are on the website as well. So if we could move on to slide 2, please. What's an asset transfer? So for Caerphilly Council, our approach is grant of a lease, and that would be in line to help support groups going for funding. So we can look at the length of the lease that we grant and funding requirements. So we can be quite flexible in our approach, but it's a lease transfer. They're usually at below market rent, and what we ask is that in exchange for market rent, as part of the application process, groups are asked to provide information, provide evidence of the community value that their project brings. So if we're giving up a rent of say £5,000 per annum, what's that project bringing in return for the community benefit? And the proposals then go through to cabinet to report to cabinet for a decision, and that forms part of that decision then. Next slide please. Okay, benefits for the community. It means that the assets, if the council are declaring something surplus, that asset can remain in the community. The groups are empowered to make decisions, and they understand the local needs, the local market. So it's about retaining the assets within the within the local community, and then the community led. So it is providing that empowerment to the groups. Next slide, please. Risks of the asset transfer, it could be different expectations. So the council and community organisations might have conflicting views in terms of what the assets would be used for and the management. So that can be part of the process of discussion and negotiation during the application process. There could be multiple groups competing for an asset. We encourage joint ventures, collaborations to try and maximise the use of the assets. So this information and requirements come through at application stage as well. Lack of experience with managing the resource. We try and cover that with the support with the CAT officers and with the third sector support agencies as well. So just trying to provide information if possible, and identify during a robust handover information that groups will need going forward. And they could be along the way. We know Caerphilly have quite a varied portfolio, and the issues that we find with the title. So there'll be legal and regulation requirements, whether it's through park services or the charity commission. So it's trying to identify those at an early stage, and to be that information to come through as part of that communication with applicants, so that we can identify, yes, we can look at this, but you need to do X, Y, and Z to be able to get through, or it's going to take a certain length of time because we need to consult with a charity commission, for example. Next slide, please.
So who can apply for a community asset transfer? In order to work with us, groups need to be suitably constituted. So we can work with charities, so a charities organisation for public benefit, and that's operating under a not-for-profit ethos. We can work with CIOs, so that's charitable incorporated organisations, and this is a legal structure that's created exclusively to meet the needs of charities. So it's got the benefits of being a charity, but it's only registered with the Charity Commission. So then our other option is Community Interest Company, a KIC, and they are companies with a social purpose. So the social enterprise is registered at Companies House as a limited company with the Community Interest Company at the same time. So the KIC regulator, that's also based at Companies House. So it doesn't discourage, we don't want to discourage new organisations from coming forward. So if new organisations, we will certainly consider them as the due diligence, and they are suitable. So if somebody, if a group come together and decide that they want to take on this, they can get registered and they can work with the GARO and some of the other third sector organisations, set themselves up. Next slide. So the community asset transfer process, it's a two-stage process. So the first stage is the expression of interest. And we're looking at these expressions of interest, we're looking at the eligibility of the organisation. Are they constituted correctly? The aims and objectives of their project, the need for the project, and the community benefit delivered. Well, we also look at the financial viability of the group and their idea, and we look at risk management awareness as well as the sustainability aspect. So once we've had stage 1 in, that will be assessed, and then hopefully organisations will be able to move to stage 2, which is case application. So what we're looking for in this application is a project outline. the group actually undertaken market research in the area, so they've looked at whether there's a need for the project. They supply us with information about business growth and development, management and operation of how are they going to go about their project, how are they going to implement their plans, and also we look at the marketing plan, plan, where they're looking for funding. We make sure that they've done a full risk analysis and they are aware of anything that could come up and how they're going to mitigate against those issues arise. We look at the project delivery as well as the engagement. Have the next slide, please. So the CAT timeline, we've got a standard timeline which takes between 34 and now this is all based on
Sorry, sound has gone very low. I mean, something happened, and Leslie was, or whoever it is, was comprehensible, but now it's faded to a whisper.
Yeah, I can't hear anything either.
Same here.
If you bear with me, members, I'll try and increase the volume to our remote attendees.
The sound has just completely gone.
Can I just double check? Are members able to hear me at all, or is it just with Leslie's microphone?
You're the same, Emma.
Okay, thank you. Apologies. Can I just double check remote attendees? Is that any better? Is there any improvement there?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to continue, please?
certainly. Okay, so the CAT timeline. So the CAT timeline, the standard timeline takes around 34 to 38 weeks. Now that's based on Welsh Government best practice guidelines. And essentially, we run through consultation with stakeholders. So that takes around 6 weeks. We then undertake a preliminary review. And that's with the CAT delivery team. We take the information to leadership. We go to the member panel board before groups. We'll assess them then to see if the groups are going through to stage 2 of the process. So that takes around 6 weeks. The full business case application, we allow 12 weeks for the groups to submit the full business case, and then it's 8 weeks to evaluate the submission. And that's because we liaise with many different council departments to make sure that we've got a well-rounded view of the application process itself. Then after that, we've got a cabinet meeting at which the decision will be made. And should it go through and Cabinet decide to uphold the recommendation, there's 12 to 16 weeks then for the legal team to deal with the transfer process. So we have got a fast track scheme, and that is for groups like community councils that we know are set up with the right constitutions, and that fast track process takes between 26 and 30 weeks. Now, I know I've given you a difference of 4 weeks in there, but that is generally because we need to give a little bit of flexibility to make sure we've been able to answer any questions that anybody has and get the appropriate departments' responses if necessary. Next slide, please.
We've included here our decision chart. It's not clear on the slide, but this is available in the 3 documents that I referenced earlier. So it's in the applicant guidance, the policy, and the councillor guidance. But it's to show that there's a transparent decision process then for the expressions of interest, for marketing and to take out to marketing, then for expressions of interest, then to stage 2 business case, all the way through to cabinet. And because we're granting a lease at below market value, it needs to be reported to cabinet. And sometimes if it's held on trust, then we would have to report to cabinet as trustee. So that just captures the process, just so that groups can see why does it take as long as it takes. It's to do the due diligence and to make sure that that decision process is robust. Next slide, please. What groups need to take into consideration, taken on account. So during the process in the applicant guidance, there's a checklist, there's a glossary of terms, just to try and support the groups as much as we can with the paperwork, and then with Leslie and Sean as well, to be able to provide that levels of support in completing the paperwork, signposting to third sector support, signposting to potential funders. So groups need to be aware of the responsibilities that they're taking on with managing the building. They become responsible for building management, statutory maintenance, everything that the authority has undertaken previously. And they need to understand their market. Is there a requirement for their project, for their proposal? Do they understand the potential funding that's available? And being able to complete their application to show that their project is viable in the longer term. Next slide, please. So this just gives a flavour of the statutory maintenance requirements that discussed with the group. So as part of Leslie and Sean's role going forward, it'll be this will form the basis of a discussion in terms of a handover approach, and there's work going on behind the scenes to develop a handbook for handover. But it'll be to make sure that groups understand the responsibility that they're taking on, understand the risks and what they need to consider if they're undertaking, or if the authority's undertaking on their behalf and being recharged. So it's a whole host of considerations depending, and that will vary depending on the asset that's transferred. Next slide, please.
So what support is available for groups? So Sean and myself, we spend a lot of time working with the groups, and we answer any questions, and essentially whatever departments they need to liaise with, they'll quite often ask us to help and step in and speak to the departments with them or on their behalf. But essentially, we've got lots of different third sector partners who are available and able to give help and guidance. We've got Garvo. So the Caerphilly team, they provide help and advice to voluntary and community organisations. We've got Compass, who are a friendly team of advisors who offer help and support across a wide range of areas, from business startups, business consultancy. We've got the WCVA, so there's plenty of different areas where they can actually advise these groups when they're looking for funding advice or marketing, how to set up a business plan. So there's lots and lots of support out there for these groups, and we can certainly make introductions and make sure that they're fully supported during the process. If I can have the next slide, please. So how can councillors help? So councillors are the essential link between the community and the council, ensuring that residents are kept informed and hopefully encouraging the residents to participate in the CAP programme. So community engagement is a key part of the community asset transfer, and members can play a key role in building those trusts between all parties and creating the strong partnerships. Caerphilly's asset management team will let councillors know when the buildings become surplus and when disposal is recommended. So whilst not all buildings are suitable for CAP transfers, we will keep you updated and make sure that you're aware of anything that's coming up in your area, or when clubs are applying speculatively for the pitches or the pavilions. We'll let you know as part of the process. So councillors can also address risk as well. We've got to ensure that there's effective and trusting relationships between the council and the community. So quite often, a lot of the councillors are on the board, the committees of some of these groups. So whilst you're working as part of those groups, you're looking after the best interest of that organisation. So that's pretty much it. So with essentially, the CAP should be viewed as an opportunity for aligning the interests of the council and the community, strengthening the power of the partnerships, the local residents, government. Next slide. Any questions? Certainly can.
Sorry, can't hear Joe at all.
Right. Hear me now? Right, Councillor Pritchard, can you hear me now if I shout?
Yes, that's better.
I'm shouting. Right, please ask your question, Councillor.
On mute.
Sorry, Councillor Pritchard, you're on mute.
Yeah. Have you called me in? Because I think Councillor Heron is before me.
I'm calling you in first, Councillor Pritchard.
Oh, okay then. Yes. Well, this seems to me, I'm afraid to say, I'm a cynic about this. And I cannot, I mean, right at the beginning of what, is that Leslie that we've just been listening to? Yeah.
Yes,
No,
Leslie.
yes, Leslie. Right at the beginning of what she said, it was something to do with when the council has declared a building surplus to requirements. Well, I don't think anybody in their right mind who is involved with a building the council is running or helping to run at the moment, and I'm thinking in particular community centres, would want an asset transfer. I mean, it's a lot of responsibility, and basically they'd rather the council carry on paying for the statutory checks, the external maintenance, etc. In the case of community councils, community centres rather, I've asked a question on a number of occasions. Are we going to be compulsorily forced to take over the building if we want to continue running, i.e. that's the management committee? Is the management committee going to have to do that? Or is this entirely voluntary? So are you going to wait for people to approach you, or are you going to force people into it? Thank you.
So we don't actually make the decision as to whether the building is surplus as a there is we have the buildings handed over to us from the services, so a service would make a decision, and then if the building is no longer needed in that area, it would come to the property department, where we would have a look at the best method of disposal. Sometimes it may be a community asset transfer disposal, or it could be a commercial disposal. But there are benefits to having these leases. So it's not a case of being forced to have a lease. A lot of community groups are actually approaching us to ask for a lease, because by having a lease, you are able to look for funding streams. You bring in funding, got that long lease. So our preferred lease option is 25 years, and to apply for large amount of funding, you generally need a lease of at least 10. That answered your question?
Yeah, well, this is departments declaring buildings surplus because they want to save the money. And the whole point of this is for the council to offload what they consider to be sometimes expensive expenditure on buildings, like, for instance, football changing rooms. I understand the council pay for certain changing rooms. They pay for the maintenance and they pay for the cleaning, etc. Well, you know, maybe they don't want to do that anymore, so they're wanting the club to take it over. But that basically is forcing people to take on the responsibility. So I don't know how this is going to work. I would like to know, are we able to have a list of these establishments where community groups are wanting to take over buildings? I would be very interested in seeing that if we have got a list. Thank you.
Certainly. On the CAT's website, so on the community asset transfers section of the website, we have all of the expressions of interest listed. So you can essentially, whenever we have an expression of interest in, we list it on the website to make sure that everybody in the area is aware of the mission, because there may be other community groups that come forward and want to join with that initial party, and actually that will strengthen the business case going forward.
So the answer to whether or not community centres are going to be compulsorily forced, if they want to continue to take over their buildings, the answer is we don't know. Is that correct?
At the moment, I'm not aware that the decision is any decision made. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to answer that, I'm afraid.
Thanks very much.
Councillor Teresa Heron, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask
The sound's gone again.
Can you hear me now, Councillor Judith?
No, I can't hear either.
Can you hear me?
Yes, bit faint, but
Sound again.
Hopefully you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask the officers was, with very new small community groups who are very keen to keep something in within their community, will there be a period of grace? So if they haven't got huge funding, I know the time scale will allow them to do some funding, but they got no guarantees. during that time that they can get the community asset transfer. But if they do get it, will there be a period of grace where they, for the first year or two, that the rent would be lower, that there would be assistance to guide them?
So the actual rent isn't a monetary value in a community asset transfer, it's social value. So we look at what the market rent would be. So say one property is £900 a year, we would expect £900 worth of social value. So that's the value that the community are creating. So the rent is minimal. It's a pound or a peppercorn or a daffodil bulb. But you would be expected to cover the utility costs and maintenance costs.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who got any questions, please? Councillor Etheridge.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the officers about the actual duplication of work. If I was going for this type of scheme, it seems to me that I would come to you as a stakeholder because I would get the advice rather than going to Garvo, because there does seem a sort of duplication of work here. So I'd like your views about these, about Garvo, and whether people, are coming to you and you'd get more, and the word effectiveness is not correct. But there does seem to be some muddying of the waters here regarding the possibility of duplication.
We actually work very closely with Garvo. We have monthly meetings with Gina to advise her of our workload, because obviously we do signpost groups to go to Garvo and other third sector partners. So we need to make sure that Gina's got the capacity to be able to deal with the number of inquiries that we have. We signpost to Garvo, we wouldn't duplicate their work. So whilst we're happy to help the community groups as far as possible, we do need the help of our third sector partners, because there are only two of us and we've got quite a lot of interest in the properties and the assets going forward.
Councillor Bevan, please.
Yeah, so Leslie, you mentioned the community councils, and of course there are town councils, and some of them occupy buildings which are in the ownership of the authority. You clarified the thing about rent. I think any town or community council is value anyhow, but if they decided to go for it, would they be allowed to? Because you haven't mentioned them here.
Anybody can put forward a speculative inquiry. So we're happy to have expressions of interest come in, and then we can review it and see. Not all properties are going to be suitable for community asset transfer, but we can certainly look at it and we're willing to do that.
Mr. Campbell, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, officers. And Councillor Pritchard, can you hear me? No.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, great. Yeah. The further to Councillor Pritchard's question and Councillor Bevan's question, then the community asset transfer. On one of your slides on that we've just seen on your presentation, only 3 categories can apply.
Yes, you need to be suitably set up. So it is a charity. You have to have a charity status.
We're not a charity. We're town and community councils.
Yes, but you are suitably set up, so that would be absolutely fine.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Well, it wasn't clear in your presentation.
I am sorry.
Yeah. And another item for the slide on timing. I mean, I know my eyesight's poor, but I could not read the big. So, and then, right, then it's about what Councillor Bridges said. What's available for transfer? Well, we don't know. You say you've listed expressions of interest on a website, but I think it'd be really handy if you could put out what is possible. Then, I'm just thinking ahead now to the new Risca Community Council, and we'd love to have a base somewhere in Risca. So, and I think we ought to be starting planning that now. Yeah, because it's 18 months' time, the new council will be in existence. So whatever you can help us on that, I'd be very grateful. Yeah, now you said the councillors are important for the communication. Well, my town councillors only found out about it via a Facebook site. So there's been no consultation, no communication with the councillors in a certain item in Risca, and it's mentioned in your paperwork as well. So I doubt very much whether the wishful thinking that you've got actually exists. Okay. I think that's enough for me at the moment. Yeah. Yeah. So I really would like to say that, how do we know what's out there? What's possible? Okay.
Again, if I can just answer that, then on the Community Asset Transfer website, it lists the properties that are available. So if you have a little look at the website, you'll be able to see that what we've got at the moment, and then that is regularly updated. So whenever any properties become available for community asset transfer, that is the one of the methods of marketing that we are using.
Is there anybody else before I bring Councillor Pritchard back in?
But I just like, how does a property get itself on this decision? Because one of the things I've noticed in the local paper was our local toilets, public toilets, ended up on there and is being allocated to somebody. So how did that get there?
So that was one of the pilot schemes. We were testing the new policy, and the new processes and procedures in place. So the Risca toilets, that went through cabinet last month, and it's been the leaseholders will be CVW. It's the COVID Volunteers Wales. They've got some fantastic plans for the site, and it is an exciting project going forward. I can certainly send you some details if you have missed out on that information, but it is an exciting project.
Short my love of what's in the paper, that's all I know. So I don't know anything else. That's why I was asking. If anything you could fill me in on, it would be great.
I can certainly send that over to you.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thanks for the presentation. That was very helpful. I just wanted to find out, in principle, would former school buildings and premises be potentially in the mix for an asset transfer?
When we assess suitability for asset transfer, we go through a process. So it's an internal review of that site. So we will look at internal requirements as well before we get to either the community asset transfer route or commercial route. So where there could be a potential internal use, that could be early years, for example, housing. If there's a requirement in that area, then that particular service will come through, and we would look at that as an opportunity for development. If there's a significant capital receipt, then we have to look at that as well as a commercial opportunity. So it goes through the decision process for the decision. Do we take it as a CAT? Do we take it as a commercial opportunity? So each asset really is case by case basis.
That's very helpful. Can I follow up? Just two more questions actually. How would people know whether it is going to be put on the asset register for transfer or not? If it's in the community as it is, are people notified, or is it just looking at the asset registered to be informed that way?
Once the route is decided, then we work with comms to get that message out, basically. So the communication team have a process now in place, working with Leslie and Sean to be able to market sites which are suitable for asset transfer. Early engagement with stakeholders, which includes the local councillors, and that message then is this site is coming up. So it's the start of that marketing process. So it goes on the website. We use social media now as well, more and more. So that message should be reaching the community, and then our communications team actually monitor the number of hits, if you like, on social media and the feedback and the response, so we know whether to run that marketing again if we need to.
Thank you. Last question, very briefly. The business case you talked about, over what period would you be looking for a business case?
So the business case submission, we usually allocate 12 weeks for that, because we found that that's an ample amount of time generally. If a group is struggling and they need a couple more weeks, or they just need a little bit of extra help, we're willing to look at that and make sure that the group are comfortable with the timeline, as well as looking at our timelines to see, because we would need to look at workloads and things like that for the various departments, but we're willing to be flexible.
Right. And what was the duration of the business case? Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years?
We look at history, so we look at 3 years financial history and 5 years projections.
Right. Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Councillor Pritchard, please.
Yes, just a quick one. At the beginning, you said there was 3 types of organisations that could apply. That's charities, there was a community interest organisation and something else. Well, there are quite a lot of organisations that are non-profit that aren't a registered charity, as with the Charities Commission, but do have a bank account and a committee and a constitution. So would you consider those? I'm sorry to harp on about community centres, but for instance, I know a lot of community centres run like that. They don't register with the Charities Commission because basically it's work. I mean, it's an extra layer of bureaucracy, but they do function properly as a non-profit making organisation.
Yes, as long as the group is suitably constituted, we would work with them.
Thanks.
Has anybody else got any more questions? Kim?
Oh, sorry. Could you clarify, Leslie, as a community council, are they then in a position to take over an asset, or do they need to become a separate charity?
As a community council, you'd have the constitution already in place, so that would be absolutely fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Brodie and Leslie, and thank you for the presentation. And as I say, please, if you can circulate the presentation, that would be great. It'd be useful information to all of us councillors. Thank you very much. Next item is item number 7, the libraries update. And I believe we have Kath Peters and Karen Pugh with us to give us and provide us with an update.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I am Kath Peters. I've been the project lead for the Libraries Review. I'm going to speak quite close to the microphone in case that's going to assist people at home, but if it gets too loud, then let me know and I'll step back. My job title within the council is Service Manager for Service Improvement and Partnerships, but I was given the role of leading on the Libraries Review. It's not just myself, obviously there are a lot of officers involved within that, including Leslie and Brodie as well, in relation to community asset transfer, libraries management, the Caerphilly Care Service. Lots of staff have been involved in it, but I'm just here today as the project lead to give you an overview. I understand that you wanted an update on the Libraries Review, so we'd evidently at a point in time, there have been a number of reports which have gone through to the Council's Joint Scrutiny Committee and the Cabinet over the period of the review. It's been running since about March of last year. The report that I've circulated for your view this evening is kind of the latest state of play, so the current update as to where we are with the Libraries Review, and it's a report which went to Education and Social Services Scrutiny Committee around about 2 weeks ago. So the interest there was, where are we at this current point in time, and what is likely to happen in communities. But I'll just go a little bit back. Obviously, the review had a number of objectives that you may be aware of around mainly about the sustainability and resilience of the library service. If you had a chance to review back some of the papers from last year, you would see that Caerphilly comparatively has a larger number of library buildings than other local authorities, and also some pressures within the staffing within the service. And notably over the last few months, we've had to close libraries because we've been unable to open them and unable to cover and staff them. So there are a couple of drivers there. The other, one of the other drivers is the Rumney Library was converted into a hub from January last year, and there was some significant benefits seen within that model. And the previous reports have shown some data and successes at the Rumney hub as well. And also we have quite a lot of evidence from library users that we have been closing our libraries over the lunchtime period, and that's primarily due to staffing and resources. And one of the other aims of the review was to try to come up with a model where libraries were open over the lunchtime period. So for that reason, it's focusing on a hub model. We are at a point in time at which Cabinet took the decision on the 14th of May to close some of the smaller single staff libraries which are open for limited hours, and focus the resources onto the town centre hubs. So 7 library hubs, and also with the retention of New Tredegar Library for a period of 3 years to be reviewed after that time period. But recognising that that's obviously going to have some effect on local communities, Cabinet approved a number of service developments which are there to designed to mitigate the impact of closures on communities. And the appendix to the report kind of sets out what some of those models would be, centred around a community outreach service and maintaining contact within communities. So the time period for closure of those 10 libraries is the 31st of August, as you will be aware. The community outreach service in the background has been developing, so we're in dialogue with community representatives. We've met with all local ward members for those 10 affected areas, and the discussions have primarily been around whether there'd be any interest in community outreach locations within those localities. Necessarily could be within a third sector building or a nearby building, community centres, whatever the case may be. Whether there was any interest in setting up an independent community library within that locality, and that would entail the transfer of potentially current book stock and or equipment, including computer equipment, to the community organisation to set that up, or whether there was any interest in a community asset transfer of those buildings which have been earmarked for closure from the 31st of August. And obviously Leslie Brody and the team have been instrumental in supporting some of that work as well. So just a little bit about the community outreach service. There are 9 elements of the community outreach service. I'll just briefly talk to you about them. Providing a community collection, so a stock would be available within communities at outreach locations which would be regularly rotated by the library service, and that would be available for the community to borrow. The order and collect service, which is a service which was very successful during COVID, where members of the public can specify to the library service the sorts and types of books that they were interested in, and then they would have a delivery or pick up from a library location. What we intended to do is we would use those community outreach locations as a order and collect location. Reservations Plus, where members of the public can actually specifically request a title, and that would also be delivered to the community location for pickup. The community librarian outreach would work from those locations in communities as well, so they would be there to provide scheduled visits and support to the community to maintain access to library services. The Library Link service would continue. There's been no proposed cuts to Library Link, and Library Link is really about the most vulnerable members of the community who are unable to travel to libraries or have got nobody available to pick up books, etc. for them. The digital offer, if you had a chance to look at some of the previous reports, is expanding. We've got an increase in digital access to resources and a decline in physical book issues. So it's about promoting more access to the digital offer. We will continue to support book reading groups, which are effectively book clubs, where there are about 38 book clubs which operate across the council area, supported by the library service. We'll continue to maintain support for them. So that is like providing potentially multiple copies of the same book, so they can read that book over a period and then discuss it. The schools engagement programme is part of the community outreach and will continue. And then supporting all of this, there's a new library management system app, which is offering members of the public and members of the library service a much better control of the library resources, supporting both book issue, renewal, etc., but also access to the digital catalogue as well. So, and importantly, obviously, this has got to be promoted. So there's plans in the background going on with the communication service to make sure that we're adequately and properly promoting all of this. And the other points in the report is that 2 of the libraries which are have been decided to be closed, that's Derry and Pengham, have been identified as areas where there's an increased need for childcare provision. So the Flying Start service are looking at the phase 3 expansion of Welsh Government funded childcare within those locations and working with that service. They've been able to assure us that there will be an ability within both Derry and Pengham libraries for there to be an independent community library that will be maintained within those services as well. The final part of the report then is talking about the decommissioning process and what would happen and making sure that any book stock, etc., which has been purchased obviously with public funds, is disposed of properly. So you'll see at 5.7 of the report a kind of hierarchy of how that would happen over the next few months once those libraries close. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I know obviously this has been quite prevalent in the press that this has been happening for a number of months, but we're at the point now where we are implementing or planning to implement the decision that Cabinet made on the 14th of May. And I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you very much, Cass. Members, if you have any questions, please indicate now. I can see my first hand up, which is Councillor Pritchard.
Yes, a lot has been made of the fact that New Jadega and I believe Newbridge had a reprieve, so we went from 6 remaining libraries, 6 remaining libraries to 8. But not much has been said about the fact that in order to finance those, we have, well, the council has developed a tier 2. A tier 2 type of library, of which Ystrad is one. Now, sorry, there's somebody's got their mic on, I think. There's some noise in the background. Yeah, so our community council. Hang on, no, the mic is on as well. Right. Okay, so for instance, Gethley Community Council, we didn't protest too much because Ystrad is our local library and we thought that was going to continue as before. But we weren't consulted on the downgrading of Ystrad to tier 2. Now, I don't know what tier 2 means. I think it means that we've lost opening hours. So maybe I could have a word on that. I mean, what is the situation in Ystrad? The other point I would like to make, which I did make in a council meeting, was the toilet strategy. And I was stopped by the chair, well, the presiding officer, but anyway, he eventually let me continue because one of the big things about the council shutting toilets, and I'm thinking in particular of Nelson, I don't think Nelson Community Council has been able to open the toilets in Nelson. One of the points was that people could go to the library, and the libraries have toilets, and you know, this would be a substitute for the public toilets. But if we shut the libraries, where are the toilets? What's the toilet situation? Well, not good, really. So perhaps I can have an answer on the tier 2 and Ystrad.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Just to assure you, there will be no reduction in hours at Ystrad at all. And in fact, the hours will increase because the lunchtime closing will cease. So there'll be an increase in hours at Ystrad. You are correct. At a certain stage within the review process, Newbridge and New Tredegar were effectively taken off the list. And just to explain for the benefits of councillors here this evening, the reason for that is that within those buildings, the council acts as an anchor tenant and therefore provides a rental income to those buildings and supports the third sector delivery from those buildings. So it was realised that if those buildings were to close, that would be almost like a more detrimental effect in that the third sector delivery at those buildings would suffer. So that's why those libraries came back onto the list. in relation to tier 2, which will apply at Ystrad and Newbridge, it is purely a fact that those buildings are far smaller than the town centre library. So if you compared those buildings, for example, with Caerphilly, Risca, Blackwood, Bargoed, and Rumney, which has been reconfigured, purpose-built as a hub, then it's just a case of physical space. So there wouldn't be the ability to have the same number of privacy rooms or meeting rooms or community rooms within those buildings that we have in the larger town centre libraries. However, there is an assurance that the referral pathways will still exist. So the referral into hub services will happen at Ystrad and Newbridge, as it will happen at the other libraries. It's just a case of physical space, but hours will increase.
Thank you. So that means that lunch times Ystrad will be open, and it will be open 5.5 days a week. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, exactly the same opening hours, but with lunchtime opening.
So, thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Councillor Zoe?
I am sorry. I didn't realise my mic was off. I was not loud enough. And I was going to ask about Risca Library, because Risca Library also closes during lunchtime. And that is also pretty poorly stocked. I was going to ask if that was being chopped anymore.
I'll come back on that, Councillor. Exactly the same situation as with Ystrad and all of the other libraries. The library hours will increase because lunchtime opening will happen. So in concentrating the resources on fewer buildings, we've been able to ensure that we've got enough staffing cover for lunchtime opening. We know lunchtime opening has been a real frustration for library users. It comes up in our annual surveys. So, previously we've got people potentially working there studying all day or using the library for business purposes or whatever the case may be, asked to leave during the lunch hour and then asked to come back.
It's because I do use the library myself for studying.
Yeah.
So I have been recently using the library for studying, and I've been asked to leave and I've had to go and sit in the park.
And I can imagine that's incredibly frustrating. So one of the aims of the review was to make sure that we could maintain lunchtime opening.
Not so much in the 40-degree weather we recently had, but I'm sure come the winter, I'm not going to enjoy it as much.
Yeah. So the aim is that the 7 libraries which have been identified as hubs, the rollout will happen from September. We have a closure date of the 31st of August for the smaller libraries. We're working on the staffing and making sure the staffing capacity is moved to the hub libraries. So we will have lunchtime opening then from pretty soon after that date.
Thank you. Sorry.
Has anybody got any more questions or comments? If not, I'll move to the next item, which is the briefing note. Emma.
Thank you, Chair. Members will have received the briefing note for queries raised from town and community councils with their agenda packs. I don't intend to go through it all in detail. It's pretty self-explanatory. Some of the queries were answered to Clerks Direct. Others, summary, are included in the briefing note, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Emma. Yes, the Town and Community Council's Liaison Committee submitted the request for better communication with between Caerphilly County Borough Council and the Town and Community Councils, all 18 of them that constitute the county borough. That was 13 months ago, so I'm disappointed that there's still no, well, it's not even in, as I can tell, not even, it just hasn't been, what's the word, considered or discussed or decided upon. But I do note in your briefing that we may have a response in the next few months, hopefully by the next joint liaison meeting in November.
I'm not, are you talking about the charter review, or are you talking about consultation with community councils?
A charter review, because the additional item requested is about improved communication and consultation with the town and community councils.
Okay. Hopefully, town and community council clerks are receiving regular updates from myself and Sharon Hughes. We try and circulate as much as possible and as many updates as possible as we can. I've recently sent reminders to heads of service, to directors and executive directors to emphasise the need for consultation. In terms of the charter, it's, as you know, it's with the monitoring officer and it's with our legal services ready for a report to come forward. Hopefully we'll have something for the next meeting. Whether we do or not, that's out of my hands, that's with them. But what they did mention to me was that there are certain sections in the charter that need further looking at. If I can just draw an example, in section 1 of the charter, exchange of information, it states that fax numbers for all directors will be given. Obviously, no one has a fax machine anywhere more, so that's an amendment we need to make to the charter. Links to agendas, reports and minutes of community council meetings should be circulated to the community council officer. Obviously, nobody sends me copies of your minutes anymore. Nobody sends me copies of your agendas anymore because you've got fully functioning websites. So if I wanted to view an agenda, if I wanted to view reports, if I wanted to review any updates, I could simply look on your website. That's still included as a charter requirement. And I don't think any clerk, under the pressure that they're on at the moment with so many things happening and so many things going on, want to send me copies of all your minutes, all your agendas and all your reports. I think that's a process we can easily streamline by me just looking online. But again, you know, that's something that is currently within the charter. And I think what the idea is that I've been given is that we now need to look at all the various digital ways the community councils are working now and whether or not the charter needs to reflect that digital working more rather than sort of things like fax numbers, sending in copies of minutes, the Cabinet Forward Work Programme. I don't circulate that. That's available online every 4 weeks, completely updated. So I think it's about looking at how we can improve the charter digitally, but that doesn't mean that the 2 amendments that have been forwarded by community councils wouldn't be considered in amongst that mix. And I'd certainly bring any amendments to community councils before anything was agreed.
It's fantastic. Fantastic. Yes, I think we all agree that it needs updating then. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think we all agree on that one. Thank you.
What we could do, we could review it at our next meeting and update it, modernise it.
When I was in the civil service, when we reviewed a document or we were going to review a document, we kicked it into the long grass and we thought we'll have a look at this. And then 3 months later, it was still being looked at. Then 6 months later, it was still being looked at. And then it's got to come back. It's got to go to scrutiny. And then it's got to go to this committee. And before you know what's going to happen, we're talking about after Christmas. So I would like some, and I don't expect Emma to answer these, but I think this committee needs some idea of timescale from the monitoring officer. We all believe that there should be review of the charter. So I would like to propose that no more than 3 members of the town council are involved with the county borough councillors who is to review it. So are we going to have the review by officers or legal? Are we going to have it by scrutiny committee? We're going to have it by cabinet? So that's a proposal. We need to have input here from members of the town council on how the charter could be improved. I think communication and engagement is essential, and I agree with Bob Campbell here. It is unsatisfactory at the moment. I'd also like to propose here, where there are community councils in existence, prior to their meetings, the elected members in their ward, and I just take Blackwood for instance, we take Risket if you like, one elected county councillor, whether they're on the town council or not on the town council, they give a written report to the town council. The example we've had to you, Zoe said she didn't know about the toilets. Now, if you got, as you have, 5 county councillors in Risca, you've got 3 in the east, 2 in the west, surely one of them could give a written report prior to the community council meeting on the main issues which are going on in Risca. And that would be effective engagement and consultation. So trying to work all them into a motion, but you know, we need some form of time scale. I don't want to be here and we are discussing this in December and January. I believe the community councillors, no more than 3, as input into the charter and also the written reports. I think these are essential to tell the council what is going on. You all go on about openness, transparency, working together, team kafili, and I think that's what we need. If people disagree with me, that's fair enough, but I would like that encompassed in a motion which I'd like to propose, and I'd like somebody to second it. If you don't agree, then it falls by the wayside. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In response to Councillor Etheridge's proposed motion about getting county borough councillors to make a formal written report to community councillors, I don't think it's fair for this committee to make a decision on behalf of county borough members. It's something that should be offered up wider than this committee. I don't think it's fair, given the workload of county borough members, to put this expectation from this motion without their knowledge, without their agreement, without any consultation with them, that there's now an expectation that they will provide a written report into community councils. I don't think it's a fair expectation. It's certainly one I wouldn't want to recommend, that a community councillor comes into this meeting and provides a written report for the county borough members. I don't think that's quite fair, Councillor Etheridge. Certainly you can propose it and we can see if it rises or falls, but I don't think that's something that would be implementable. I don't know. I'm sure that many county borough members and the committee clerks in town and community council areas provide valuable insight at meetings without the recourse for a written report. I'm sure they share information widely. I'm sure they share it cooperatively, and I'm sure they share it in the best interest of openness and transparency. Putting the onus on for a written report, I think, is unfair. It's a matter for the committee if you want to support that motion. In terms of a timeline, I'm more than happy to take that forward to the monitoring officer, and I'm more than happy to ask the monitoring officer to consider that we seek nominations from community councils to act as a working group towards charter improvements. More than happy to take that forward, but I am very reluctant to move a motion that puts an onus of more work on county borough members, particularly when they may not be present this evening, without any kind of notice or forward planning for them.
Back, please.
Briefly, and then
Briefly,
calling Councillor Parker.
Could I reword it then and ask that one county councillor in that particular ward sends a report to the clerk, a one-page report to the clerk once every month of what's gone on in their area, and move that as a recommendation, as not as, you know, but if you think that's wrong, you may think that's wrong, but I'm not prepared for my motion to, I'm not prepared to take that out. I think there needs to be more liaison between, perhaps there is in some areas. If there is, that's fine. I know that one of the councillors in Blackwood, not myself, gives a written report to Blackwood Town Council prior to the meeting. And it's only a one-page meeting, and it's once a month, It's in point form, and it would probably take him about 30 minutes of the main issues in Blackwood.
Emma, do you want to come back in, please?
Yes, again, Councillor Etheridge, you know I will be reluctant to do that. I'm very reluctant to commit members to additional work that they're not aware of. We can put the motion up if it's seconded. If we can make that recommendation as part of our minutes. I don't know how I would make the recommendation to it unless you're recommending that it becomes part of the charter. Okay, so if you want to include that as part of the charter, then I suggest I would discuss with Bob, with Helen, I believe from Bargoed, who initiated the first of the charter changes. If it's a matter that you want to include that with the charter, then I think that's a wider topic for consideration. If you're making a motion to move just that this committee decides that members must put in a written report, entirely different thing. If community councils are happy that some wording to that effect must be included in the charter, then I can certainly look at that and take that forward. But again, we'd have to review it as part of the wider charter review.
Bob, do you want to come in first and I'll call in Michael?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to assist with that. Yeah, and I'm sure my counterpart in Bargoed Town would as well.
So I would recommend that we discuss this at our community council liaison meeting first, then we'll fetch it as part of the charter back to this main meeting. Is that agreed?
Oh, yeah, it could be a rolling programme. Yes, Chair.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a difficult one now because I've listened to more of the conversations that have gone on. We are fortunate in Risco. Both our county members come to our meetings and give us a report, so we don't have that trouble. The other thing I was going to say is, you mentioned about communication and you looking at it, that it's all done digital and everything. I accept that needs to be done, but will you do that quicker than you've done our two proposals?
Do you want to respond, Emma, please?
I can try and respond. The charter updates are out of my hands. I provide regular feedback to the monitoring officer. I seek updates from the monitoring officer. That's within my remit to do. I can't take it forward any quicker than what's allowed by the monitoring officer.
So in other words, the monitor officer is in total charge of how the charter's run.
The charter itself was approved and agreed by full council.
Yes, I got that. But
Yeah.
now if you want to amend,
If you want to amend it, the monitoring officer would need to review the amendments and a report submitted to full council for full council approval.
so it's up to the monitoring officer and no one else.
No, it's up to full council. The monitoring
no.
officer will review the
I
proposals.
understand the full council got to accept it. But what I'm saying is that we've put the proposal to you. You've then passed it on to the monitoring officer, and evidently it's stuck in his in tray. He's not looking at it and not passing the information on. So where do we stand? If you can't tell him off, who can tell him off? Because he is, no matter how you look at it, 16, 17 months is too long to disagree or agree on a very simple matter. It's not even a complicated matter. All we're asking is that when we ring up, that we have the same courtesy that a county councillor gets. That's all we ask. And evidently, we can't get it.
In terms of when you ring up, as most clerks will know, as members will know, I worked quite extensively with customer services and with the CRM team to ensure that if a community councillor identifies themselves to them as a community councillor, they will be addressed and they will be dealt with as a community councillor. They will be afforded that respect. If members don't feel that's happening, I'm more than happy to go back and speak to customer services again. So when they do ring up, community councillors are afforded the respect of that role and are addressed and spoken to as community councillors. In terms of the monitoring officer and his decision making, That's the monitoring officer's decision making. It's his workload management, it's his terms of urgency. That's not something I can comment upon for obvious reasons. I'm not the monitoring officer. I can follow things up, I can chase things up, I can ask for improved timelines, but I'm not the monitoring officer, and I don't think it's fair for me to speak to or address the many demands that are placed on his time and how he sections that time up. I agree, it's been a long wait for you, but we'll try and get it through as quickly as we possibly can.
I accept you do everything that you do, and you do it with the greatest courtesy. But at the end of the day, we're still waiting for the presiding officer.
Councillor Pritchard.
Yeah, one of the problems with this is that not all areas have a town and community councillor. So a council. So, you know, you've got a bit of a lopsided system if you do go ahead with this, and that some county members will be obliged, if you like, though they may not want to do it, to provide reports, but others won't. I think it really we have to. Excuse me. This body can't really recommend. Well, we can recommend, but we can't decide anything. But I'm wondering whether Democratic Services Committee ought to have a look at it as well. I think the timescale, I don't think it matters all that much. I mean, we've done without these, with or without these reports for many years. So if it takes a year to sort out, well, so be it.
Councillor George Etheridge, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, I think a timescale is important. I know Councillor Pritchard says it's not, but it is important that we are then all seen to be working on the same page. Currently, when I speak to other town and community councillors within the borough, they feel like they're treated as second-class citizens. And this is something that does come across quite clearly. I get this when I speak to the licensing department, for example. That's one of my grudges when I speak to certain departments. Because you're a town and community councillor, or you're treated as a nobody, and that does come across quite clear with some departments within the authority. And I think the feeling is shared right across the 18 town and community councillors that they don't get fair treatment when they speak to the county borough. Thank you.
Sorry, can I come in there? That's a completely different issue. The way town and community councillors are treated is a completely different issue than asking county councillors to make reports.
Just to come back, I think the issue on county borough council members making reports is long gone, Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you, Councillor Etheridge, for your comments. I can certainly feed back to heads of service and directors. I can speak again to customer services and to CRM, and I can try and emphasise the point that community councillors should be afforded the respect of that role, should be addressed in the title of that role, should be listened to in the title of that role. It's something that I do regularly, and I can assure you I will continue to do it to ensure that community councillors are held with respect for their role, the part they play in the community, and the part they play in democracy.
Thank you, Emma. Just to come back, I do think that's difficult, and I appreciate that's what you'll do. But for me, one of the things that was done quite recently was an email was sent to the chief exec himself with regards to this particular issue. And I proved my point when it was completely ignored, when he answered back, completely missing the point that was raised and just overlooking the actual question that was asked as to why we're treated differently. So I think if it comes from the top, the dead silence, it's going to come from everywhere else as well. So it needs to be addressed throughout. But I did ask the chief exec why we were treated differently, and the question was completely ignored.
Thank you. Is there any other items that you wish to bring this to our attention, Emma? Bob, do you want to come in first before I...
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Emma. Yes, the local delivery group and the Town and Community Council's liaison committee's representative is Community Councillor Matthew Ferris from Van Community Council. And I got Michelle here, the clerk at Van as well. So neither of us know whether CCBC have been in contact with Community Councillor Matthew Ferris as our nominated representative. I have emailed him this morning, and he couldn't make it to the meeting today. So I think Michelle Advan and I are of the opinion that the Caerphilly County Borough Council officers have not been in touch with Matthew Ferris yet.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Chair. I was given assurances when you first raised the query with me about the local delivery group. Heather Delanet and Heather Pels have assured me that they have sent Outlook meeting invitations for all the local delivery group meetings to Councillor Ferris. I'll be more than happy to go back and check with the officers, but they did assure me he should have all the meeting dates in his calendar.
Okay, well, let me get hold of him first of all then to double check that before I come back to you. Thank you.
Would it help, Bob, if I asked the officers concerned to copy Michelle in when they send a meeting request so the clerk has evidence that the invitation has been sent? Obviously, she won't be able to attend, but if she knows the invitation has been sent, then she knows that Councillor Ferris is getting them.
Yes, please, Emma.
Yes, any more items that you wish to bring to our attention, Emma?
No, Chair, that was all for the briefing note.
Okay, thank you very much.